You're given immortality, but as a cost you are sent back 3,000 years. Would you accept, and what would you do? Before we begin, consider your answer to this question, and have fun watching. Story 1, no. No, that sounds awful all the way around. First off, I do not want to be immortal. Second off, I do not want to go back to a time when there are no flushing toilets. Yuck! Story 2, immortal without health issues, being a perfectly healthy man with current skills and knowledge, then I am all okay to go all the way 3,000 years back. I can manage to build a better world. Story 3, I'm not sure the 3,000 years is significant. If you were made immortal today, eventually this date would be 3,000 years in the past. Does time have any importance to an immortal? And this is ignoring the usual questions regarding invulnerability, aging versus non-aging, etc. Story 4, hang on 3,000 years? You are either going to be famous to live long, get caught by government, and be used as a lab rat forever because you never die, or living anonymously for the rest of your life. I need another superpower other than being immortal TBH. Story 5. In the Netflix adaptation of The Sandman, which is really good by the way, Dream grants a dude the wish to be immortal. The guy lives hundreds of lives, some good, some bad, some awful, but in the end doesn't regret his decision because life moves on. Assuming immortal includes being impervious to injury/sickness/ etc. then, yeah? Going that far back, you'd be considered a deity for surviving fatal occurrences. In the modern day you wouldn't, but you could have a sick YT channel. Story 6. I wouldn't want to do that. I'm scared of the person I would end up becoming by outliving everyone I ever care about and having to do it over and over again with each person I meet. I feel like I would stop valuing human life and I would become a monster who views people as toys to amuse myself. My concept of time would also be warped due to it no longer being something I care about either. I'm happy with the life that I have now, and I'd rather make the most of the time I have rather than be immortal and have all the time in the world. Story 7. What the fuck no? Immortality itself is already bad enough. Like I'd want to be floating in space for several septillion years after the sun expands. Living through 3,000 years of shitty society with less advanced technology and no way to communicate does not help the case here. Story 8. Everyone here talking about Apple and Amazon. Nobody talking about reuniting Earth and purging the universe from the mutant, the heretic, the alien. The answers here are as boring as in that thread about being gifted 100 billion. I'd buy a house and sleep on it so I don't accidentally blow it all. Like Noonie had any clue that they were handed an economic atom bomb. Story 9. You have to be kidding me, right? That is like best solution possible. I would be richer than Rockefeller Foundation, BlackRock, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk combined x 100. I would establish exactly a world I want to. Also, Jews would borrow money from me, not other way around as it is now, because I would invent concept of bank system. And only suspicious thing that people would notice is how each son is so lookalike to its father and grandfather. But hey, with that kind of money shouldn't be a problem to stay in a shadow. Story 10. What type of immortality are we talking? Are we talking unkillable with eternal youth? Never aging but able to die from mundane means like injury and disease? Unable to die but still aging? Story 11. What kind of immortality? If it's just ageless, I might pass. But if it's true, immortality, I would travel around pass on knowledge I have. While basic concept of science are boring here 3,000 years ago, they are great. Badly draw maps or spend years with craftsmen to learn a trade and keep knowledge intact. Maybe even start a hidden cult of personality, if only to preserve books and scrolls, pass on medical information. Sent letters to world leaders and back inventors with knowledge and resources that I gained over time. Not staying at one place for longer than 30 years is kinda a must, unless you really want and need to change anything, save the Library of Alexandria, maybe meet a Jewish carpenter in the year 0 and absorb his cult into mine, or help Genghis Khan. Or even better, help the Paris Commune and the German Revolution of 1918-1919. Story 12. If I am immortal, that would mean that when the sun explodes and the earth is destroyed, I would just float in the endless universe in darkness all alone. Even that is too far. Imagine watching your loved ones die again and again for eternity till humans evolve in something else completely or are wiped out on Earth. Imagine waiting for the universe to collapse on its own for billions of years just for your floating body in space to find some peace. Hell nah, I ain't doing that. Story 13. I would. Given that I can keep my existing knowledge, it would be interesting to live through times. I wouldn't mind the hardship as I would know that I get to see the future. I would never marry or get attached to a woman for obvious reasons. Also, would I keep my current age? Story 14. If it's basically Helsing immortality, sure. Assuming I go back to here, I'd hunt mammoth, confederate the tribes. Assuming it wouldn't take me 500 years to learn how to fight and try lay low before making a glass-blowing place that rivals Venice. Then human nature takes over, something solid like Scandinavia as a single state gets born, and with complete dominance over the Baltic Sea. I'd be out somewhere just reading everything that I can find. I'd probably be bored before Jesus is killed. Story 15. I would not accept immortality period if it doesn't have an exit option. Immortality means you will outlive everyone you love. In fact, you will outlive everyone, period. When apocalypse comes and everyone on Earth is dead, you will still be alive. When the Earth itself is swallowed by the supernova of our sun, you will still be alive. When the universe itself dies of heat death, you will still be alive, drifting endlessly, unceasingly, wishing for a death that will never come. Story 16. You really can't do it. You'd need incredibly specific conditions. If it's just the no-aging immortality, good luck surviving for thousands of years. You're probably going to be put in a forest next to a bear or some shit and die right away anyways. Or you'll trip over something trying to get out of the forest, cut your leg and die of infection. Or you'll starve to death because you don't know where you are and aren't a wilderness man. If it's the invincible can't die immortality, then holy shit. Gonna be a fun run. Let's say humanity gets off Earth and you don't sit here until the sun expands and engulfs the planet. So you're not burning inside of the sun for billions of years. Maybe you tour the galaxy, great time, much fun. You're galactic god emperor. Way to go. What an accomplishment, I mean, boy howdy. How could it go wrong from here? Well, after a few billion years, the Andromeda galaxy collides with the Milky Way and your empire is toast. Oh well, it's been a fun run. So what's next? Good question. Well, it's 10100 years of suffering, waiting for the heat death of the universe. Does that kill you? Probably not, because you are pure magic. Protons have decayed. There is no universe. Just you. In empty abandon. Forever. It's the worst possible thing that can be imagined. Story 17. Define immortality. Does it mean I still can break every bone in my body? Because that would be awful. Living forever with a broken spine. If it means my body just heals every wound or is even unbreakable, then I'd dig that. Guess I would just travel the world and become a myth in different cultures. Story 18. Yes, I would accept it. I'd just vibe and wait out my time until the present day. Blend in, learn everything I can about history, continuously change my appearance every 10 years and pray I don't get experimented on or found out in the modern world. Or past even. Story 19. That just makes it easy to travel, amass wealth, gather ancient and timeless knowledge, do anything, do everything, be prepared for the current future, and enjoy life however I so desire. I'd probably just end up writing books in what would be current times about past experiences. I wouldn't worry that they would most likely be marked as fiction, as that would probably be best. Honestly, I think a super sick healing factor would be best, as that would equate to immortality, with the optimal capability for survival. It would probably lend more towards a morbid sense of humor. Story 20. Sure, I would accept as long as the immortality meant unable to die, unable to age, unable to be wounded. What is 3,000 years when your life is infinitely long? I would probably just be a wanderer and explore every part of the earth while observing history being made. Story 21. Nope. When you're immortal, you have things worse than death that await you. I wouldn't want to be buried alive in some random place asphyxiating for eternity. The only way to survive would be to be a nomad all throughout life and keep avoiding all wars and geopolitical struggles. I think you'd have to keep changing your appearance in some way when the industrial era begins, and you'd probably have to hide away in a third world country post-World War to avoid being detected or end up on the internet. If you've watched Ajin, you'll realize how depressing it is to be immortal. Story 22. No, I wouldn't accept immortality. Period. The time would not matter. It would be a curse to watch everyone and everything you love die. Also, what would happen if the world ends? Everyone would be dead and I would be stuck in a wasteland, void of any human life to converse with. Story 23. I'd have to be invincible as well, unable to sustain any damage at all, but hell yeah. It would be incredible to live through all the ages of human civilization. Would all my offspring over the millennia also inherit my immortality and invincibility? Completely rewrite human history. Eventually, everyone would be immortal. Story 24. Yes, though I'd hopefully be able to bring a history of the world type book to guide my little games, lol. One thing I can think of is going to Alexander the Great to try and influence him not to overextend, and probably other stuff like have a proper heir somehow. Would be interesting to see a proper Greek empire face off against the Roman Empire, or team up against some bigger bad maybe. Story 25 I would accept. I would then first stay in the background and live my life. Maybe I would occasionally try to get world domination, like trying to emerge as Alexander the Great or some other stuff, but that would most likely not work and I would fail and then return to obscurity. As soon as it's feasible, I would go all in into biology and try to make advancement in that field. I would then wait for an opportunity when humanity is at its weakest, maybe after an AI uprising, and then try again to gain world domination, uniting the whole planet for a common goal. My advancements in biology should help me create some form of transhuman super soldiers. At the same time, I will further my research in transhumanism and will refine my methods, resulting in 2018 perfectly genocrafted demigods. From their genetic material, I would create 18 legions of super soldiers. They will be my shield and sword to conquer the galaxy, and they shall know no fear. Story 26. 3,000 years is a long old time. Good chance you will be involved in a war of some kind multiple times, and someone is going to try and murder you at some point. My fear would be that when this happens and they see that I'm not dying, they will think I'm some demon or a witch, and I would suffer some horrendous fate far worse than death, like bury me alive for eternity in some box, and I would scream myself insane for the rest of time. Story 27. I would accept. Living in Europe makes things easier. I'd slowly make my way towards Rome, where I'd then familiarize myself with Latin and do whatever it takes to become a Roman citizen. I'd use my superior education as a 21st century Westerner to amass great wealth from ancient trade, and would tour the ancient wonders that still stand. I'd probably stay based in Italy for a very long time, but would do things to conceal the fact that I'm immortal. I would likely stay in Constantinople or Mesopotamia during the Middle Ages, during the height of the Byzantine Empire, and then the Islamic Golden Age, until the Renaissance, to which I'd move to Florence in Italy. At some point, past the Renaissance, I would consider moving to London. I would stay in London until the world wars kick in, to which I would then stay in Switzerland. I'd then spend the post-war days in the US. My wealth would be conserved by gold and amazing investments in historic successful companies. Story 28. Immortality has consequences most people don't think about. You outlive everyone you love. Once humans go extinct, you're the only one left on Earth unless someone else has the favor to become immortal. Once our sun dies, become a supernova, the Earth is far less pleasant to be. In the end, Earth also is gone, and yet you are still there, waiting to witness the end of the universe, and even after that, you still live. Story 29. What's to stop people from trying to burn you at the stake, and then burying you in the ground for eternity when they realize that they can't kill you, resulting in you spending thousands of years buried in a grave, hoping that someone someday might dig you up by chance? Story 30. Of course, I'm far less fearful of the past with immortality than the future with immortality. Take a human and put them 50 years past the era they grew up in, and they already are grumpy and feel disconnected with the new world. Add 2,000 years and I can't imagine what that would be like. It would be fun to know everything that will happen in abstract and live it. To know the Roman era is coming and fully explore it. Story 31. Wait, am I invulnerable too, or just your last cell can't die? If I'm both, I would fight my fears. Jumping off a high mountain, etc. would keep me entertained until I can play video games again. If I'm just immortal, I would find a quiet place and just live on my own. I still need food and water, so it's the best time to learn fishing, etc. Story 32. I'm split on this because being sent back 3,000 years would allow me to document many parts of history as they happen, given that I write myself a 3,000-year-long itinerary before being sent back. By the time I get to the modern era, I'll probably have lots of money, thanks to stonks, and would be able to live the life I want. But the reason I wouldn't go is because immortality is always a curse, and I like my current life. Story 33 depends on the specifics of immortality, but I probably would. I'd spend a few decades adjusting to the ways of the world, moving around periodically so as not to arouse suspicion, probably slowly sprinkling in some of my modern knowledge about how things work. I'm no Senku, though. Hopefully I just find a way to accumulate wealth, and by the time the Industrial Revolution rolls around, I'll be in a position to become one of those asshole billionaires we all hate. Story 34. Important to establish conditions. Immortal, yes, but with age control. Also, I can't be forcibly or accidentally confined in any way. Being immortal after someone's buried you would be bad. Also, pleasure and pain must largely stay intact so I don't lose my humanity. That means suffering is still experienced, but it's limited. I get hungry still, but can't starve. I feel pain and won't be walking through any fires, but can't really burn. Also, I would like amazing combat skills and situational awareness, so that I can take on armies if necessary. Okay, thanks. I'm ready to go. Story 35, I have questions. 3,000 years back in time, exactly where I'm standing, Norway, or do I get to pick somewhere I won't immediately die without heating an imported fruit? Am I still black in this scenario? Because that would change my answer, particularly if my first query turns out to be answered with a negative. Do I get to bring someone or something? Like my husband of 20 years, or the medication I need to be able to see? What will happen to my dog? Can he come? If the answers are, where you stand, yes, no, and your dog stays in 2,024 inches, then I'll politely decline. If I can choose to bring my husband and my dog, and immortality comes with perfect health or tissue regeneration, then I'll take a run at it. Story 36. Immortality and invincibility, or at least the ability to stay the same age and fully recover from any injury or sickness without side effects. And I'd do it in a second. Only immortality, no way. Too many horrible things I gotta get through that I wouldn't survive till modern day anyway. Story 39. Well, bases on my complexion, I'd be safe from racial discrimination, but I imagine I have certain habits that would be seen as alien to other humans, so I imagine I'd be burned at the stake or stoned, all the while unable to die, but I'd like to see if I could change the path of the world for the better. Story 40. I might do it if I could choose to die at any time, and the mechanism of immortality was good for me. Also, do I learn at the same pace? Could I learn at the same rate? Would time pass faster and faster? Would I affect history depending on my actions, or would those actions be folded into history as it is? Could I pretend to be Jesus? Could I study stuff for a few years before I went back so I could kickstart some technologies I'm accustomed to? All of these questions would need to be answered before I made a decision. The choosing to die thing is a big factor for me, though. Story 41. Making a few assumptions here. 1. Maintain the same age I am now forever when it comes to my physical form. 2. That the crushing weight of thousands of years of memories won't fry my brain and I won't succumb to Alzheimer's or something similar. 3. That I am granted some level of physical invulnerability, be that just being impervious to harm or else healing from it all rapidly a la Deadpool and Wolverine. 4. That I wind up somewhere with a decent level of civilization, be that Greece or Egypt or wherever around that period. Assuming all 4 of those are the case, yes, definitely, absolutely. Story 42. Sounds tempting, but thinking about the lies you need to tell, loved ones why you don't age. Do you just randomly disappear on people you know every 30 years and move somewhere? Or you do what vampires do and take a break from society for 100 years so people forget about you, lol. Well guys, pretty interesting stories on this topic. I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being with me.